On today's show, we learn about the Public Health Excellence Grant on Community Conversations, hear original poetry, take a walk through Tucker Preserve, and talk about upcoming things to do in our area. We're glad you're here. Let's get started. Join Freemason Hartman Dietz at the Plymouth Masonic Lodge on Monday, November 18th for The True Story of Thanksgiving, a talk conveying Wampanoag history during the colonial era and what the first Thanksgiving was really like in Plymouth. Mr. Dietz is a Mashpee Wampanoag who, informed by Indigenous tradition and spiritual foundation, has been a respected steward of Wampanoag culture and history for over 20 years. The event starts at 6 p.m. and is free to attend. The Masonic Lodge is at 116 South Meadow Road in Plymouth. Are you ready to design and follow a roadmap leading to your full potential? TED Talk speaker, author, and certified executive coach Paul Kiesig will be lighting up the Adams Center from 6 to 7 p.m. on Wednesday, November 20th with Achieve Your Goals and Build Meaningful Connections, an engaging and uplifting event providing practical tools and strategies to help set and achieve goals, tap into fertile curiosity, and build more authentic connections. Whether you're looking to move forward in your career or find more fulfillment in your personal life, Paul will use humor, storytelling, and keen insight to inspire you to chart your own pathway to a renewed sense of purpose. To register, please email reference librarian Stephen Miller at smiller@kingstonma.gov or call 781-585-0517, extension 6272. The glorious days of autumn in New England and a walk with a curious furry friend are the feature players in this next piece, a walk through Tucker Preserve in Pembroke.
Golden, crisp leaves falling softly from almost bare trees, lifting and falling in a hushed, gentle breeze, slowly dropping to the soft, cushioned ground, whispering and rustling a soothing sound. Coppers, golds, and rusted tones, Mother Nature's way of letting go. They fall and gather one by one. Autumn is here, summer has gone. Crunching as I walk through their warm, fiery glow, nature's carpet rich and pure that again shall grow, to protect and shield its majestic tree, standing tall and strong for the world to see. They rise and fall in the cool, crisp air. It's a time of change in this world we share. Nature's importance reflecting our own lives, letting go of our fears, and again, too, we shall thrive.
Next up, We welcome Plymouth Board of Health Chair Barry Potvin, Director of Public Health Karen Keene, and Shared Services Coordinator Linda Reardon to discuss the Public Excellence Grant. Here's Community Conversations.
So our purpose today is to describe a public health excellence for shared services grant program that we are fortunate enough to be the recipients of. I believe this is our third year. So we really started in 2023, I believe. My name is Barry Potvin. I'm the chair of the Plymouth Board of Health. I'm also the chair of the Public Health Excellence Advisory Group. And we've been doing this now for a little while. So the grant is really designed to accelerate equity and effectiveness of the local and regional public health system. It was decided some time ago that there was too many different public health groups in the state, one for each town and city, and there wasn't a lot of consistency between them. And also that a lot of the things that the public health system was supposed to be doing on the local level was only being accomplished kind of in a not totally good way in terms of when we were trying to get consistency and make sure that all the services being provided were being provided according to state regulations and law. So I'm going to introduce the other members. I'm a retired college professor and retired research scientist. Karen?
Hi, I'm Karen Keene. I'm the Director of Public Health for the Town of Plymouth. I have a staff at the Town Hall. We're on the first floor. So if anyone wants to visit the Public Health Department, that's who we are.
Linda?
Hi, my name is Linda Reardon, and I'm the Shared Service Coordinator for this Public Health Excellence Grant. I'm essentially the point person for the collaborative with the state and the host community of Plymouth. I work with the grant committee to put together the FY25 work plan, their budget, and I provide quarterly expenditure and narrative reports to the state. I help to facilitate monthly grant meetings, I do the minutes, and I work with our chair Barry on setting the agenda.
Okay, so thank you, Linda and Karen. The three of us, of course, work together very closely on this. Karen and I were pretty much used to doing that because the Board of Health sort of preceded the grant program. So we've been doing it for a number of years together. We also work very closely with representatives from each of our 6 towns, which I'll be explaining to you in a moment. So this grant group actually consists of 6 different area towns. It was put together by the Office of Local and Regional Health of the DPH at the state level. In our particular case, our towns included Carver, Kingston, Plymouth, Plimpton, Wareham, and 1 year after we started, Duxbury was added to our group. Plymouth is the lead community. What that means is that all of our employees that are hired and paid for under the grant program are actually Plymouth employees. And so the Plymouth is the overall sort of facility through which all the grant funds are funneled, all the payments are made. So we are indebted also to the town of Plymouth for doing this for us. So I wanted to just describe what they expect us to do. So on the state level, they decided that there were performance standards. This involved a number of different things, but among them was making sure there was adequate inspections and enforcement of food safety and restaurant inspections. We needed also to make sure that tobacco sales were regulated so that there weren't any sales being made to underage buyers. We are also expected to make sure that we keep track very carefully on a daily basis of various infectious diseases. And if we have any indication that there's an outbreak, we have to investigate them. So those were our main areas of focus. And then the state also decided that we had to have another focus on what is known as health equity. So health equity involves low-income individuals. It also involves people that don't speak English as a first language. And there are communities like that that are concentrated in North Plymouth, also in Wareham and to a lesser extent in Carver. The other 3 towns don't really have any recognized environmental justice groups. So you'll see on the first slide a map of the state, and it's color-coded. And if you look at the color coding on the map of the state, you see that all 351 towns are indicated there. They are highlighted in different colors. The ones that have done the best are the ones that are in orange in terms of what they were able to do to meeting the state standards. So those were the ones that had achieved at more than 75% standards. Below that is a lighter blue set, and that includes our group and a bunch of others. Those are the ones that met the state standards up to 75 to 80%. A darker blue was still lower at 80 to 85%. And then there was a much darker one that was less than 85%. So we were doing well. The overall standards were met to 78% of what the state requires statewide. That includes a population of 5,431,796 residents of the state. If you start looking at what's going on here in Plymouth and with our 6 towns, Plymouth has 61,217 residents. Our 6 towns together have a population of 128,893, and our performance standards are met to the extent of 77%, so just 1% below the state level. We also had sort of an evaluation done, and they gave us numerical scores depending upon how we were doing. The lowest score we had was for disease control and prevention, so we had to work to get that higher. The next lowest one was for tobacco use prevention, so we had to work on that to try to get that score higher. And beyond that, though it's not on the chart that you probably are looking at, they wanted us to achieve better performance in terms of health equity for the underserved populations of the state. So that's sort of the evaluation. That's what we were designated to do with our grant funds. We now have, if you look at the next slide, a logo, and you'll see it says Southern Plymouth County Public Health Excellence Collaborative, and it lists all 6 of our towns. Beyond that, I'd like to sort of list who is involved with this work. On the state level, we have Bethany Griles. She has an MPH degree. She's our program coordinator, works with the Office of Local and Regional Health and at the DPH. And she is the one who we refer to all the time when we have any questions about how we can or cannot use the grant funding and how well our grant group has been performing. The current collaborative staff includes Linda Ridden, who's already introduced herself. We now have a full-time epidemiologist. For those of you who don't know what an epidemiologist does, they're basically a disease detective. And there's a lot of statistical work done. It's invaluable work, and she gives us a lot of indication about what's going on in our 6 towns in terms of what we need to concentrate on in order to achieve a lot of good performance standards, and also to help to protect the public health and the lives of our residents and our visitors to our area. We have a food restaurant inspector who works for us part-time. There is also a part-time public health nurse, and we are going to be looking shortly for a community outreach worker. So the services we provide include, of course, doing food and restaurant inspections. There were 2 towns that really didn't need much help with that. And the 2 towns that didn't need a lot of help with that, I guess, were Carver and Plymouth. Karen, why doesn't Plymouth need help with food and restaurant inspections?
The town of Plymouth actually has a contracted food inspector that we utilize for doing all of our restaurant and retail food establishments, which do number here in Plymouth over 200. So though the grant is available for us to utilize as perhaps a different certain occasions, such as a reinspection if necessary. The primary food inspections are handled by our contracted inspector.
We hired a restaurant food inspector to serve the towns that needed help, and Wareham was certainly first on the list. After that was Kingston. They needed some help also. Duxbury really didn't need too much help. Neither did Plimpton, but they do get some services occasionally. For the tobacco enforcements, we found that there were 2 towns, again, that really didn't need much help from the grant funding. Those were Plymouth and Wareham. Karen, why is that the case for those 2 towns?
Plymouth and Wareham are lucky enough to be part of Plymouth County Collaborative for Tobacco Control, which means that through that program we have inspectors that go out and do, I guess what you would call undercover operation, where they send somebody in who is under 21 to purchase tobacco products. And those establishments that unfortunately do sell to that individual who is indeed under 21 then receive a violation notice and fine from our office, as well as from Wareham too.
So Wareham was sort of in the same category, but the other 6 towns were not. They didn't qualify for help through the district or the area collaborative, and so they were having even more trouble managing this. As you can imagine, those towns were a little uncomfortable having to recruit an underage person to serve as their buyer to make sure that the sales were being correctly controlled. So the grant actually hired, and Linda, you can explain how we did that.
Yeah, so what the grant did was hire, can I mention his name? The tobacco person that does the testing with the Barnstable Tobacco Coalition. And we hired him to conduct twice a year inspections within the communities. The 4 communities are Carver, Kingston, Plimpton, and Duxbury. So we hire him twice a year, and we use our grant funds to pay him for that service, since they're required to be done twice a year.
So after the inspections are done, the individual towns get reports, and we find out who has been found to be in violation. They are then subject to a state-mandated series of fines, and then depending upon the individual town's regulations, they may also have their sales permits suspended for varying periods of time. Sometimes they actually come to the town's boards of health to appeal those violations. The third thing we're working on really hard is the disease control and prevention. That involves all 6 of our towns. There is an online system called the Massachusetts Virtual Epidemiologic Network, abbreviated as MAVEN. This has to be monitored on a daily basis. Each town must have 1 person primarily responsible for doing this. It is generally one of the town's part-time nurses, if they have one. And there has to be a backup person also available to monitor these. So they look to see what kind of infectious disease reports have come into the state. And then if there seems to be a problem with this being transmitted within the local communities, we have to take action. So this is the responsibility now primarily not only of our public health nurses, but also of our epidemiologist, recently hired, but she is working really, really hard. She's one of our full-time employees, and she is really good at monitoring all of the data that's coming in through the state and doing actual statistical research to see what needs to be concentrated upon. Then there's also something called health or racial equity, and I guess, as I mentioned, that's really concentrated on our environmental justice populations on at least 3 of our towns. So far, we have provided services to the Algonquin Heights community here in the town of Plymouth. We also have a North Plymouth Community Advisory Group. We have regular meetings of that group, and they advise us what kinds of health needs those citizens may have. Obviously, they don't necessarily all have health insurance. They may have trouble getting to doctor's appointments and accessing the needed services that everyone else already has. So we're working very hard with that group as well. Wareham is going to have a similar group set up, and that organization process is underway. Another thing that we've done, and this was a huge kind of need, and it was quite expensive, is to digitize all the town's health records. A lot of the towns still had paper records, and of course it's very difficult to deal with that these days. So Linda, again, how did we do this?
So this was very exciting. We contracted with eBiz Docs, and we are currently in process of digitizing the health department records for the towns of Kingston, Duxbury, Plimpton, and Wareham. Again, Plymouth was all set with this need because they already have their records digitized. So we had a first pickup of documents in August. We're getting ready to do a second round of pickup. So the process is moving along, and we're very excited about that, as are the towns.
Yeah. I think the one town that didn't participate in this because of complications involving how their records were
kept
yeah. was Carver, and we're hoping we can correct that in the near future also. Plymouth was fortunate because I think you had used a summer intern.
Nope, actually I did it myself.
You did yourself?
Yeah, I did it myself. I started 11 years ago digitizing our records. So over the course of time, we got to be present. So all of our records have been digitized.
Makes it vastly easier to find individual records that may go back quite a lot of years.
Absolutely. And I guess what I'm also thinking about too, which is important for folks out in the audience to know, is that I would be thinking, well, how is this going to help me as an individual? So it's twofold. One, these benefits are being brought to these towns in our collaborative that may not have been able to have these benefits without the use of the grant. So we're protecting residents, we're protecting visitors, we're making sure inspections are done, we're making sure that records are digitized so it is a benefit to the folks that come in and need that information. And the second thing is, it's not costing the individual towns any money. So this grant is a cost-saving measure as well for the residents of these 6 towns. So I think that that's important for our audience to understand all of the benefits that this grant's offering to our 6 collaborative towns.
Finally, I just want to mention the staff training, which the grant also supports. We send an awful lot of people to professional meetings, and their expenses are paid. There's a lot of webinars and formal instruction and trainings that go on, including for things like mental health, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, chronic diseases, reproductive health, environmental health, nutrition, oral health, eye health, pest and vector control, heat illness, and public health and emergency management. So this is just a few of the ones that are of interest to us. Most recently, I guess we've had a lot of discussion about rodent control, and we work directly with the DPH the DPW, sorry, on that particular thing, and so that's something we do a lot of. We also work fairly directly with some of the hospital personnel. So that's the grant. That's what we do. We're very fortunate to have been funded fairly generously by the grant program. And what we can do and continue to do really depends upon continued funding.
If anyone has any further questions about the grant or wants to find out more details about what we're doing, you're more than welcome to come to the Plymouth Health Department, again, at the Town Hall, 26 Court Street on the 1st floor.
So thank you. I hope you learned a lot of things about what's going on in the town using the state grant funding. And we hope to continue to be able to serve the town doing the same things and more in the future.
Float to the Pembroke Council on Aging to celebrate a century-old extravaganza of enormous balloons, marching bands, Broadway cast, and celebrity performers. On Wednesday, November 20th, Frankly Speaking presents the program Macy's Day Parade, a look at the tradition that, to many people, feels as familiar and comforting as pumpkin pie. Learn more about the parade's rich history, preview this year's balloons, and have fun guessing the identity of celebrities who have performed in the parade throughout the years. Prepare for the upcoming Macy's Day Parade and experience it in a way you never have before. This event steps off at 2 p.m. What did being neighborly mean in the 17th century? Join the Duxbury Senior Center on Wednesday, November 20th for Duxborough Neighbors, a discussion about the Brewster and Standish families, two farming families that depended upon each other as good neighbors in the early years of Duxbury settlement. The talk is about an hour long and starts at 2 p.m. in the Ellison Large Side. Pre-register for this event by visiting duxburyseniorcenter.org or calling 781-934-5774. Next up is poet Sheila Mullen Twyman.
So next, I would like to bring up to the podium Sheila Mullen Twyman, who is a participant in the writing community called Poetry, the Art of Words that Miriam had introduced before. And she has her own Seamus Heaney story to tell. Please come up.
I'm going to read a poem by Seamus. I love the name Seamus. I just like saying it, Seamus Heaney. And I had the pleasure of meeting him back in the 1950s when I was at Boston College. He came and spoke a few times and contributed a lot of his correspondence and manuscripts to the library at the college. I'm going to read The Death of a Naturalist. And I have to say, it talks about flax. Flax was a very, or is a very important ingredient for linen, and there was a big industry back then. I'm not sure if that's true now, is it? No. Okay, this is Seamus Heaney. The Death of a Naturalist. All year the flax dam festered in the heart of the townland. Green and heavy-headed, flax had rotted there, weighted down by huge sods. Daily it sweltered in the punishing sun. Bubbles gurgled delicately. Blue bottles wove a strong gauze of sound around the smell. There were dragonflies, spotted butterflies, but best of all was the warm, thick slobber of frog spawn that grew like clotted water in the shade of the banks. Here, every spring, I would fill jam pots full of the jellied specks to range on windowsills at home, on shelves at school, and wait and watch until the fattening dots burst into nimble swimming tadpoles. Miss Walls would tell us how the daddy frog was called a bullfrog, and how he croaked, and how Mammy Frog laid hundreds of little eggs, and this was frog spawn. You could tell the weather by the frogs, too, for they were yellow in the sun and brown in the rain. Then, one hot day, when the fields were rank with cow dung in the grass, the angry frogs invaded the flax dam. I ducked through hedges to a coarse croaking that I had not heard before. The air was thick with a bass chorus. Right down the dam, gross-bellied frogs were cocked on sods. Their loose necks pulsed like sails. Some hopped. The slap and plop were obscene threats. Some sat poised like mud grenades. The bloodheads farting, I sickened, turned, and ran. The great slime kings were gathered there for vengeance. I knew that if I dipped my hands into the spawn would clutch it. Thank you.
Connect with your community and make an immediate difference in its economic health on Saturday, November 30th at Emerald Yoga Studio's 5th annual Small Business Saturday Fair. Get a start on your holiday shopping and support a wide variety of small and local businesses, vending baked goods, botanical items, fitness items, tarot card readings, charming crafted items, and unique art. Meet up with neighbors at this 12 to 4 p.m. event that will include festive music, raffles and gift card sales, class pass deals, and more. Emerald Yoga Studio is at 15 Columbia Road in Pembroke. A Christmas Carol was written by Charles Dickens to help open the hearts of the prosperous and powerful toward the poor and powerless. More than 180 years later, the author's intention continues to hit the mark with this cherished redemption tale portrayed in a rousing variety of ways every holiday season. From December 12th through the 15th, the Plymouth Antiquarian Society will bring this classic tale to life in an interactive experience that will transform the 1809 hedge house into an immersive walkthrough with Ebenezer Scrooge's penance and recompense. Join Scrooge as you travel through the rooms of the historical house, encountering a talented cast of performers enacting his visitations with the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. This one-of-a-kind performance will last approximately 45 minutes, and tickets are a pittance at the cost of only a few shillings, or $35 per person in American current day dollars. There's a $5 discount for members and multiple performance times to choose from each day. Reserve tickets for your time and visit at the Plymouth Antiquarian Society's website. Ignite your spirit of the holiday season on Tuesday, November 22nd at the Kingston Council on Aging's Resin Art class, beginning at 10 a.m. You'll create a one-of-a-kind treescape, a decorative window inspired by the beloved Christmas tree and decorated using your choice of items from a varied and vast selection of trinkets and treasure. Using a 2-part epoxy resin that will be cured overnight to create a permanent design, your 11 by 14 window art will take 2 hours to make, last a lifetime, and cost only $25 per person. All materials will be provided, but you can choose to bring some personal decorative items to add as well if you like. Reserve your spot at the Kingston Council on Aging website. Get ready to shake your tail feathers at the 48th annual Duxbury Turkey Trot 5K race. On Saturday, November 23rd, starting at 10 a.m., get into feast mode with an invigorating 3.2-mile out and back road race that starts near Percy Walker Pool, heads up Powder Point Ave, loops around King Caesar Road, and finishes back near the pool. The cost is $20, and every runner gets a t-shirt and squawking rights. Please bring a non-perishable food item for the local food bank. Registration is now open through the Recreation Department. Next up is Tiff Phillips with more of what's happening in our area.
About the act of sitting down and writing the first draft of a novel, author Vladimir Nabokov said, "The pages are still blank, but there is a miraculous feeling of the words being there, written in invisible ink and clamoring to become visible." The Pembroke Public Library has invited author Stephen White to lead How to Write a Novel, a workshop that promises to help you begin to make those invisible words appear on the page. In other words, get started on that novel. A writer for over 50 years with his 12th novel currently in the works, Stephen will cover all aspects of the novel writing journey, from brainstorming and shaping your ideas to building characters and writing what you know, to the editing and how to publish your book. This 1-hour workshop is on Tuesday, November 19th at 6 p.m. Registration is required and can be done through the library's website. On Tuesday, November 19th, the Plymouth Center for Active Living is hosting a Braver Angels debate on immigration in the U.S. The resolution to be debated is resolved. Immigration is key to American prosperity and culture. Participants will share their points of view on this complex and challenging issue, ideally fostering an understanding of the validity of different viewpoints. Through the exchange, the hope is to build stronger community relationships and for all who attend to gain a deeper understanding of the topic. Join the debate panel or just come to observe and ask questions. It is free and starts at 5:30 p.m. To register or inquire about speaking at the debate, please email braverangerscal@gmail.com. Call Cal or register on My Active Center. Drop-ins are also welcome.
Thank you, Tiff. And that, my friends, wraps this episode of What's Good and Good to Know in our area. Thank you for watching.
And we thank our patrons, Tiny & Sons, Quintal Brothers, and Squinty's Pizza for supporting our mission of community in action through media.
We'll see you on the local scene. For more of what's good and good to know on the South Shore of Massachusetts, hit the subscribe button, and thank you for watching.